Had a good weekend. So much to dissect here. I'm Nick Kypreos. Welcome to the Real Kyper at Noon show. And if you're joining us for the very first time, thank you very much to our loyal followers. Thank you again for being a big part of it. And if you're a first timer, like I said, hey, why don't you subscribe? Get those reminders going so you know every day, every weekday, we're here live streaming, getting you set up, getting you teed up for a great day or night of hockey here. Before we get to all of the events and where we are in this series, just a little bit of follow-up. Of course, on Friday, we had a good discussion, Doug Maclean and I, about Tuuka Rask. And we certainly were all taken aback by his comments about how the games didn't feel like regular playoff hockey. And, he's certainly entitled to his opinion. To go public like that kind of surprised us because we do know how much of an effort it came to get to where we are. No fans in the building, covering the seats, the music, the scoreboard, all of that. Tremendous effort, both by the NHL Players Association, by the National Hockey League to put this thing together. And to have a player, and yes, a star player and a number one goalie for the Boston Bruins to publicly challenge it or question it or criticize it, we were taken back. But at no time did we ever feel like he'd be in a situation where he wouldn't play anymore. Like, that was stunning news to hear that Tuukka Rask was on his way home. And while we all may have an opinion on it, we do know what the right thing to say is. And it was said. It was said by many in the media. It was said by many with the Boston Bruins, including the general manager, Don Sweeney, who talked about the most important thing is family and not hockey. And I get that. For sure, I get that. But you got to understand, too, that there's going to be people behind the scenes that may have a question or two. Now, Mike Milbury from NBC Sports, we know he can be a polarizing analyst, much like in the Don Cherry. You're more apt to get what they're thinking more so than anyone else. And we do know in this world, in 2020 now, it's important publicly to be politically correct and socially correct. But this guy decided to go down a different path. And now I certainly... I welcomed his honest assessment. Not everybody sat the same way on it. He got hammered, considered it an awful take, and publicly it probably is. But I thought it was rather refreshing to hear his take. And you can say anything you want about Mike Milbury. He's old, he's a dinosaur, he's out of touch, go away, whatever. And there's many of you guys probably giving the thumbs up on that one. But there has to be said for someone that lives in Boston, played for the Boston Bruins, and coached as well. So he may have more of an expert opinion on what the perception would be in Boston, maybe than anyone. Now, that alone to me is worth listening to. And for Mike Milbury to say that it would not sit well with the Boston Bruins fan, that to me is a legitimate comment. And while we all want to think that we live in this perfect world where there's no judgment anymore, I can tell you from ownership to a presidency position to a general manager to coaches, it's all about judging. It's all about judging players on a daily basis. And a world today where you're not supposed to judge, that's a really hard pill to swallow for people on the inside. And again, publicly, perception-wise, what goes out to all of you, everything was said perfectly by the Boston Bruins, by the teammates, the players, all of it. Family first. And it is true. When it really comes down to it, it is true. But you can't tell me for 1 second that there are not people behind the scenes that are doing a lot of judging right now. And that's where our world comes in. And I can tell you that they do judge it. And the judgment starts every day. It starts with your skill level. Can you play? I'm judging you. No, you can't play. The guy skates like he's got a piano on his back. The guy turns like a train. The guy drinks like a fish. Okay, the guy parties like it's 1999 every hockey season. That's all they do is they judge. And unfortunately, whether you like it or not, it's happening behind the scenes with Tuuka Rask. Okay, they're judging him behind the scenes. Publicly, what they say, different story. Behind the scenes, they are questioning him. The biggest judgment beyond talent and anything else in our game is character. They're judging now Tuukka Rask's character. It's happening inside the Boston Bruin organization, and it's happening all throughout the league. And while we do understand that family always comes first, he didn't mention that in his press conference when he was talking about how disappointed he was in this tournament, that it felt like exhibition games. Like, that would have been a good time to probably mention that, you know, it's a hard thing being away from your family. That probably would have bought him a little bit more in terms of understanding the scenario. But to go from just ripping on the state of his environment to now going, bringing up your family, caught a lot of people off guard. So when Mike Milbury talks about Boston Bruin fans not understanding, there are Boston Bruin fans that are not understanding. And there are some judging his character. I don't care whether you think it's right or wrong. It's the truth. And one guy I can tell you who's probably done more judging than Simon Cowell throughout his career is Doug Maclean in PEI right now. Doug, that's all you did in your career is judge.
Well, you know what? I guess when you're in evaluation of your team and your players, you do have to judge, and sometimes unfairly. But that's the business is scouting, judging, who can help you win, who's going to, cost you a series, who's going to win you a series. So it's a big part of it. Tuuka Rask is a really tough situation because we haven't seen this happen very many times. Certainly in my career, I didn't see it happen very often. But if you recall, I think it was 2017, Tuuka Rask took approximately, was it 5 days or a week off away from the team because he had some personal issues. And that was sort of a small issue, it was considered a small issue at the time. He had to get away, wanted to get his mind straightened out. I don't know what that was really about, but I know it did happen, and he was away from the team. This sort of caught me off guard. We didn't like his comments the other day and we talked about it at length on the last show, but to actually step out of the bubble, that was major news. Milbury's take on it, whatever his
Did you find it harsh? Did you find it like, you know what I really got out of it is that, he felt like the Boston Bruins fans would have a tough time understanding it.
I have a problem. I didn't really have a problem with it. I mean, I guess when you're saying family versus hockey, anybody would say family is the number one thing. No doubt, no denying, family is the one thing that you would leave and do anything for. Leave a team, leave a bubble, leave the NHL. It's family. So that to me is the greatest excuse you can have. But so that's a given. Family, leave for family. Who can really question that, I guess, is my point. But here's the bigger question that I have. Will he ever play for the Bruins again? That's my question.
And when you say that, is it based on the fact that you don't trust him? You can't count on him? Is it based on this decision that you're saying that?
I think what I'm basing it on is that the Boston Bruins came into this bubble as a Stanley Cup favorite to win the Stanley Cup. They're a group that a few of them have won the cup, but this group was thinking they were legitimate Stanley Cup contenders.
With him in net.
With him in net. So tell me an NHL team who, as a Stanley Cup contender, can afford to lose their number one goaltender. We know Halak has done a good job for them in the past as a backup, but he's the backup. And how many teams win the Stanley Cup with their backup in goal? So when I say, will he ever play for the Bruins again? That is a legitimate question to me, because the management, the fan base, Tuukka himself, this is not easy. And I want to reiterate, I'm 100% supportive of the family. If the family needed
We all
him,
are, Mac.
he needed the family. That's
We all are.
legitimate.
We
But
all
when
are.
you go step away from that and you say the ramifications on the hockey team and going forward, can they ever have this happen again? That to me will be very interesting to see how it plays out. Sweeney may have no problem with it. The Bruins ownership may have no problem with it. I just asked the question, will he ever play for the Bruins again? And I think it's a legitimate question.
We had 24 teams. What do we have? 500, 600, 700 hockey players in this bubble. There has to be a lot more Tuuka Rask scenarios with family and concerns and all of that. And it's all legit. It's all legit. And the only thing I say to you, Mac, is if there are some isolated incidents like this, where, you feel for a guy and he's struggling, you do pour your heart out to him to say, do what you feel is right. That's your right.
Totally.
But if we had every player in the league now go to their teams or Gary Bettman or the PA and say, I'm like Tuukka, my family has to come first. If we had every guy like that, we'd have no more hockey. And would everybody feel the same way like they do for Tuukka today to say, hey, family comes first? If the league shut down tomorrow because every player had concerns for his family over playing, would we still feel the same way that we do publicly about Tuukka? Or would we be all sitting there going, okay, so everybody just, you decide to come here, and then 3.5 weeks later, you decide your family is in a situation where they need you more, therefore you shut down? How would that look?
Except the only thing you have to be careful about in this situation is, what really is the situation? Is it missing his kids? Is it his wife can't cope with the young child and 2 younger kids? What really, and it's none of our business what it is.
It's not.
And so there's varying degrees of how serious this could be. That's why I don't want to get into judging Tuukka Rask in his decision. I don't want to judge that because I don't know how serious it is. All I'm saying is, from a hockey perspective, from an organization perspective, do they bring him back? Because how can you go into next year's Stanley Cup and not have this in the back of your mind?
Well, in many ways,
that's my own, because this is, in fact, the first time he's done this, but it's the second time he's left the team for personal reasons.
In many ways, Mac, prior to knowing the situation with the family on the weekend, he was pretty much done after his comments when he basically said, when he said to his teammates, I don't feel the same way as you do. I don't feel like I'm trying to win a Stanley Cup. He was done. He was done on those comments.
And we debated that Friday, not knowing that was bad enough. But when you leave, that's a whole nother level. Now, let's not kid ourselves, and you alluded to it. There's a lot of people in this bubble that aren't enjoying it. Like, I talked to some people on the weekend. First week to 10 days, it was good. There's nice restaurants, and you could go and have a little wine and restaurant. Everything seems good. Now, as we move into the real playoffs and we're into this 10 days, it's a little tougher. And I guarantee you, some of the family people, guys with families, are finding it tough. I talked to some other people that say the younger guys seem to be really okay with it. Does this affect who wins the Stanley Cup?
How can it not?
The Vancouver Canucks are a young group. They're having a ball. They're on a high with this. They're excited.
So is the Montreal Canadiens.
Right. How are the Washington Capitals feeling? How are the St. Louis Blues, the older teams in the league? How are they mentally? And is the bubble going to affect teams' chances to win the Stanley Cup? We may have a different Stanley Cup winner this year because of the situation involving this bubble. I talked to one player in the weekend. He said, it's like jail with food. I mean, come on. It can't be that bad. It can't be that bad.
I'm told you can't even eat when you want to eat. So maybe
it's like me at home.
Maybe it is.
It's like me at home. I mean, listen, this is a small comparable. When I came back to PEI, I did 14 days in isolation where Jill and I could not leave our property for 14 days. I don't mean we could go I could get to the sand, but I wasn't allowed in the water on the beach. We could not leave our property for 14 days.
Yeah.
Well, after I got the test on the 11th day and I tested negative, I was ready to bolt. I was done. But no, I stayed in our house.
Poor guy.
For
Can't
14
touch the
days
beach.
on the poor me. What about Jill? But listen to this. And I got a call every day from the PEI government. Do you have any symptoms? Are you leaving your property? And if I didn't answer the call twice, the RCMP would show up at my house to make sure I was on the property. That's isolation. The bubble, I guarantee, is probably worse than that. So no wonder it's causing some issues. I think it could affect some teams big time.
The Kypreos, Doug Maclean here on the Real Kyper at Noon show. Thanks for joining us. If you haven't subscribed, please do so and smash that like button for Doug Maclean. He's always real happy when you do that. We titled today's show, Mac, Rookie Sensations Dominating the NHL. We saw Quinn Hughes tie Al McGinnis and Zarli Zalapski for a consecutive point streak by a rookie. So is it basically now all in favor of the young guns versus the experience right now, based on your theory in the bubble?
Well, I think that the young guys are probably gonna perform better. I mean, I look at the Vancouver Canucks, albeit they lost last night. Quinn Hughes has been spectacular. He's been a treat to watch as a youngster. He was partially responsible for the winning goal in overtime last night, but he's had just an unbelievable presence on the ice. He's exciting to watch. Pettersson, watching him on the ice. These are two, in my opinion, two franchise players.
Yeah.
When you get two franchise players on your team, you have a legitimate chance to be a Stanley Cup winner. And in my opinion, they have two franchise players that are future franchise players. And I'm talking Taves Kane. You're talking Malkin and Crosby. You're talking Doughty Kopitar. These are franchise players who won multiple Stanley Cups for their teams. And that core group of Vancouver, these youngsters are right there, in my opinion, and have the potential to be as good of those names as I just talked about, and maybe even be better than a few of them. So but again, it comes back to the kids are on a high. And I know the Vancouver Canucks are on a high. I know some of the young kids that are playing in the league, Doc in Chicago and these guys. This is like a blast for them. Well, for some older guys, I guarantee it's not a blast.
Well,
like it wasn't for me in isolation.
Just to put a wrap on all of that, you just hope that we won't see more cases like this, but you cannot underestimate the mental challenge it takes to be in this situation. And like I said, we're only 3.5 weeks in, and the stress and the strain on a daily basis from going from the rink back to your room for how many hours before you go back to the rink. I just hope that we don't see any more cases like this, but I guess the percentage will tell you that perhaps there may be. Someone else may be in a situation like Tuuka Rask where they just decide they can't do it anymore. Yeah. I hope that's not the case.
I hope it's, and you know what, let's end this conversation by saying whatever it is
Yes.
that Tuuka had to make this decision.
We
Let's
wish.
hope.
Yes,
Let's hope
absolutely.
that it is resolved, and it's, you know, by him
100%.
making this move has been great for his family. Let's hope that.
100%. And all I wanted to do out of this conversation to say, unfortunately for Tuukka, that he left himself a little open to be questioned. That's all. Based on his comments in his post-game comments after game 2 to the decision to leave. So like you said, like I'm just speaking from a hockey guy, Mac, to where we know what it's like inside. We know what it's like when they aren't making public comments that are, you know, going out to media. So unfortunately, to your point, he will be questioned. He will be judged on whether or not he's still the goalie of the future for the Boston Bruins. And the good news, I guess, is Halak has come in. We've seen Halak hit very high levels. I mean, once upon a time in 2010, we had conversations about trading Carey Price and keeping Halak in Montreal. That's how good he's shown us he could be. So the comfort zone for the Boston Bruins seems to be there with Halak, which is great news for a team that's supposed to contend, if not win the Stanley Cup.
Don Sweeney was not asleep at the wheel. Let's think about this. Hudobin was his backup before. Terrific backup. Doing a great job in Dallas. Halak's his backup now. He did not leave this team without a very, very competent backup. And that makes Don Sweeney today look pretty smart, that he was very prepared in case of an injury to Tuuka Rask or, unfortunately, this situation. Good on Don Sweeney.
And no Pasternak either.
I mean, that is, you know, losing your number one goalie is one thing. Losing your superstar scorer who really makes that big line tick. We know Bergeron's critical. We know Marchand's critical, but Pasternak's the sniper. That's a big, big loss to this team. And hopefully, you know, there was some talk he might be back last game. I'm anxious to see if he's in the lineup. I have not heard as of showtime, but they need him. They need him bad.
Boston up 2-1 in that series, and they go 8 p.m. Eastern, and we shall see if Pasternak comes back. What a huge shot in the arm that would be for the Boston Bruins. I want to stay in the East here and talk about one of the best stories so far, Montreal Canadiens, and pushing now a second consecutive favorite. First it was Pittsburgh, now it's the Philadelphia Flyers. Just before we talk about Philly going up 2-1 in the series, I want to talk to you about a guy that knows how to handle the media or how you would go about a crushing 5-0 loss. Alain Vigneault, a.k.a. AV, was very critical of Kirk Muller and his power play late in that 5-0 win. And he went out of his way. Like, this thing came out of left field, Mac, to criticize Kirk Muller for putting on a power play that wouldn't, at times during the season, scare a peewee team. And I'm sitting there going, did AV see the mid-70s Steve Shutt, Lemaire, and the Flower come over the boards to bury and insult his Philadelphia Flyers? Like, has he not watched the Montreal Canadiens power play all season long? Why would he have been so scared on a 6th goal from that power play?
Well, let me tell you why. Because I remember being on the bench with the Florida Panthers playing in Tampa. Terry Crisp was the coach for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they were beating us 7-1 in Tampa. We had a pretty good team, and for whatever reason, we came flat. We're up 7-1. And I look over with 2 minutes left, and Crispy puts his number one power play on the ice. And I'm thinking, you son of a bitch. I was screaming and hollering at him. You son of, we'll get you, boom, 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 yapping like a nut bar.
Because I'm okay at 6-0, but 7-0 really pisses me off.
Yeah, exactly. But it was a regular season game. So, and it was just, what it was? I was so mad at my team that I had to get mad at somebody else too. So I think Vigneault was so ticked off with his team that he just was mad. And when he saw Kirk do that, he said, okay, that really pisses me off. And so it was mad at his team, and he's taking it out on Kirk. Now, I heard the guys last night on the broadcast say, you can't blame Kirk Muller. This power play needs a lot of practice. He just wanted to get a little more practice for them. So Vigneault, I think he would be embarrassed by what he said. But coaches, it's a bit of a code there. You don't embarrass the other coach. It's a bit of a code. And the way you embarrass is you put your number one power play on when you're getting tried. But let me tell you something. This is the playoffs. And in the playoffs, you do whatever you want. That's the bottom line for me.
When
I heard it, I thought, AV, don't go there. This is the playoffs.
I thought Kirk handled it exceptionally well in his post-game comments, because I think he got surprised in terms of the comment. I don't think that he had heard it prior to being at the podium. And he just basically said what you said. I got to focus on trying to make my team better. And
totally.
That's it at the end of the day. And my understanding is they're friends. They coached at the World Championship. They were together for 3.5 weeks. There's a lot of mutual respect there. And I have a sneaking suspicion, because I like Alain Vigneault. I think he's a great coach, and he is a very likable person, that he will have a conversation behind the scenes with Kirk Muller and say, yeah, I probably went a little over the.
But
and Kirk's an amazing guy. Kirk will be the first one to laugh at it.
It's funny when you're in a playoff series with another coach. It almost is. You get to be really. You don't dislike the other coach, but it becomes so important and so much pressure that you don't like the other coach during that series. You do not like the other coach. And there was a couple I coached against, and I hated shaking hands with them after, unless we won, of course. And then I really enjoyed it. But it just becomes such and I don't mean dislike them, because when the series is over, you're friends again. But in the heat of the battle, it's just something. It's the competitive juices that son of a bitch over there. I don't like that, So it's kind of fun.
And Montreal's really put themselves in a position to challenge Philly and maybe put themselves in a position where it's a best of 3 for Carey Price. I watched that game, and it was quite painful to watch these teams, particularly on the power play. Not a lot of scoring chances, although we had a lot of crossbars. And I think at last count, we had Montreal at 5? So they put themselves in a position again to maybe even squeak out a win. I guess the good news for Montreal for Philly is that they showed Montreal we can win at your own game if that's the case. But Montreal has put themselves in a position, albeit tight checking or, whatever you want to call that, to win. And you mentioned off the top of the show, the young kids now being in a position to like this. Kotkaniemi, Mac, he left when the season was shut down in March. He went back home a boy, and he came back a man. That guy, this is a different player. It's a different look. He's almost a different skater.
He's
stronger.
Yeah, he needs a razor almost. He's hit puberty. It's unbelievable. but listen, I said before the Montreal series with Pittsburgh, I said, are you telling me that Kotkaniemi and Suzuki can match up with Crosby and Malkin? And I sort of chuckled to myself. This is a bad matchup. Kotkaniemi and Suzuki are Montreal's 2 best players right now in this series. I know Danube's been good. Danault's been good. I know Weber's been terrific, and Petrie's been good, and Price has been. But these 2 kids They had 5 scoring chances last night, these two kids. And when we talk about the 5 crossbars, I think they hit 4 of them,
Yeah.
or posts. They have been that good, the two of them. It's been a coming out party for these two guys. Here's what's caught me off guard. Montreal, we know they play fast. They have been playing pretty fast. I'm caught off guard that Philadelphia, number one, they're not physical like I thought they would be. And number two, they're not playing fast. And you know, they were the better team, I guess, last night. But really, did the Philadelphia Flyers scare you last night? If I'm the Montreal Canadiens and I'm Kirk Muller and I'm rewatching that game, I'm thinking, boys, we were right there. We had a chance to win this game. This Philadelphia Flyer team are not scaring us with the way they're playing. So, you like the Hayes line, you like the Couturier, Giroux, Voracek line when they were reunited. But after that, Lawton's line with Hayes, the top 6 is pretty good. They're not getting a lot of creative offense from their back end. I tell you this, it will not surprise me. If I'm Philadelphia, I'm nervous that Carey Price is going to win another game, and then we got a hell of a series here. Well, I'd be nervous if I'm Philly.
Yeah, the energy wasn't there, and I think Tortorella talked about it a little bit with Columbus and Tampa Bay. And even though we're only 3.5 weeks into this, we're seeing maybe some fatigue, and I think I saw it a little bit in Montreal and Philly. And Tortorella talked about it with Columbus here. And maybe it just goes back that they're not sharp. They're just not sharp. That power play, I think Philly has scored 1 out of 26, if I'm not mistaken, since they've arrived in Toronto. They're far too skilled, Mac. Like it's a mental thing right now in terms of execution on the power play.
And you know what? In today's game, you got to play fast, and they're not playing fast. If you're going to win the Stanley Cup, you got to play the game fast, in my opinion, in today's game. And I didn't find them playing very fast. So it'll be fun to watch, as the series goes on. But I'd be damn scared with Carey Price in the other goal.
Far from over.
Carter Hart.
Philly's
5
up 2
crossbars, 5 posts on Carter Hart. But I'll tell you one thing. I have never seen a 22-year-old, maybe since Carey Price was 22 years old, play so well positionally. And he made a couple of great saves, but the posts were hit in many cases because he's so sound positionally in the net. I mean, this kid is a special talent too. So, what a matchup between Carey, who turned 33, I believe, yesterday, and Carter Hart, who's 22. What a idol against the kid. It's pretty amazing.
Kotkaniemi found himself all alone late to try to tie that game.
Big time.
And Carter Hart had ice in his veins. He didn't budge. Did not budge.
What a second-round pick by Hextall.
Another guy who may look like he has ice in his veins, still at 36, if I'm not mistaken, is Little Joe Pavelski. Put Dallas on his back to tie that series up 2-2.
Look, it was interesting to watch this game, and I got to watch parts of it because I don't have the multiple monitors at my cottage like you have at your home. But anyway, listen,
you need a loan.
Joe Pavelski with 62 with the hat trick, and with the Dallas Stars firing 62 shots at Cam Talbot. The Dallas Stars were not going to lose this game. I mean, I'm telling you, they came after them, and Talbot was spectacular. Pavelski, though, we know Pavelski, he's a winner. This is a guy that's come into the NHL as a late round pick at a Waterloo in the USHL college. He's been an unbelievable pro. San Jose Sharks let this guy walk. He should have been a lifer with San Jose, in my opinion. But look, he was not going to let his team win or lose, I should say. And the kids on the back end, Heiskanen. Oh my God, what can you say about Heiskanen? Like,
there has to
seriously,
be
how good is Heiskanen?
Yeah, it's like it's like he's skating on water. It's
By the way, and now
everybody else sinks. This guy just scoots.
Just a bulletin. I have a news bulletin that just came into me.
Wow. Do we need bulletin music, or I'll work on
that? This guy thinks this is really big for our show. Just subscribe to you and Kyper's show. So he's acknowledging it's my show too. Good to see and hear you guys yapping hockey again. Billy Jaffe has subscribed to our show.
Billy Jaffe is a friend of the Real Kyper at Noon show. Billy, of course,
Isn't
we know
that nice of Billy.
His wonderful work.
A legend. And I remember Billy Jaffe is very well known as a hockey player at University of Michigan when he played there. And I said one night on TV that Billy Jaffe was a real good goalie at University of Michigan. And then I realized, oh no, he was not a goalie.
What you realized is
what I knew about his career. But anyway, we love Billy.
What you realized is I don't do much prep before any show. And we've seen that already in 2 weeks we've been here. But Billy Jaffe's does great work with the Boston Bruins. Nesson is his station, and thank you, Billy Jaffe, for subscribing. And
I always wanted.
Let's get Billy a few more of you out there and hit that, smash that thumbs up button. Right, Mac?
And you know what? I always wanted Billy to show me how to use a telestrator, but I never got a chance. He's always too busy on it. Anyway, so look,
one note on Calgary, Mac, as a head coach, is it easy to watch some bad penalties by Calgary? How hard is it to reel them in the middle of a playoff series? What do you do? You lambaste them? What do you do?
They got in penalty trouble in the Winnipeg series. They're lucky Winnipeg was shorthanded. But you cannot kill 7 penalties. You can't kill 7 penalties. And Ward has got to get that through. Ward has done a really good job with this team, by the way. I got to tell you, this is a guy that came in a tough situation, and the players like him and respect him. There's the best vibe in that Calgary dressing room for a long time. Since Peters left, I didn't like the vibe then. I heard it was bad. I heard it was toxic. And I heard it wasn't great when Bob Hartley was there. Ward has come in and has got a good vibe in there. The players want to play for this guy, and that's really important. But he's got to get it through to them. They cannot take 7 penalties.
Wow.
You cannot, or you're not going to win. And Talbot, you cannot give up 60+ shots. I mean, Talbot is. Look, too many goalies are playing back-to-back games now. You can't be letting them get hammered like this. Hammered with shots. You can't.
Monahan and Gaudreau have to be effective 5-on-5. I don't care. It's gonna end ugly for Calgary if these guys don't find a way to penetrate even strength.
Hey, where are they without Bennett? Where are they without Bennett's line, and where are they without Bennett on the power play all of a sudden? And all of a sudden, Tobias Reeder, who couldn't score a goal. What was he, goalless in 2 years in Edmonton? And he's got 3 shorties in this playoff?
That's a pretty good story.
Like, what a story it is. I mean, remember the talk about it? He couldn't score to save his life in Edmonton. And now he's got 3 shorties. And they've been big goals. So the big boys have got to come alive. They've got to have a little better discipline. They got to hope Cam, like we thought Cam would not play the other night. He is their guy. And I love the fact that goalies can actually play back-to-backs. We've thought the last 4 years that goalies can't play back-to-back anymore because the analytics guy says you can't play back-to-back games.
Okay. You brought it up.
So they can, I guess.
You brought it up. Let's go there. And I know you touched a little bit on the Vancouver Canucks earlier in the show with their amazing game breakers. Horvat Miller. Oh my gosh. Give that guy a little bit of room. And that guy could score from 30, 40 feet out. And Jim Benning got roasted, by the way, for trading for him. And now he looks like a genius.
Okay. I'm going to say a name here and you tell me if I'm crazy.
I'll just tell you you're crazy now.
I love Bo Horvat. Okay. And I said it a couple of years ago that I thought he was going to be a better.
Brad Fay brought that up on a tweet.
Yes. I appreciate Brad doing that. I mean, he could get in trouble with Sportsnet for doing that too.
Well,
I really
didn't
appreciate
think it was,
that.
Good of you to rent a billboard and PEI with it on, but
But here's what I'm going to say right now. Horvat, I am not afraid to use Horvat and Jonathan Toews in the same sentence. Toews has done more. He's a superstar. He's a franchise player with the Blackhawks. He's been so important. And I'm telling you right now, Horvat has a chance. Not today, but he has got a chance to be a Toews-like guy for the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah.
You know how important that is? And that's how much I think of Horvat right now.
Yeah.
Am I wrong on that?
Well,
am I crazy?
If Hughes can be a bit of a Duncan Keith, he still needs maybe a couple more pieces, but Vancouver isn't that far off. And Pettersson can be a Kane-like guy. And
I'm telling you,
all of a sudden, Vancouver's looking like probably the most upside out of any Canadian team.
Well, look at this. Where were they compared? We talk about where were they compared to the Toronto? Where were Calgary? Where were Edmonton? Where were all these teams compared to Toronto Maple Leafs when Toronto come off a 105-point season? All of a sudden, they're blowing by Toronto.
Yeah, they are.
But I'll tell you what, the Vancouver Canucks, Pettersson, Horvat down the middle.
Yeah.
Okay. All of a sudden, Quinn, Tanev, great pair on the back end. And Markstrom, traded from the Florida Panthers, a former #1 pick, has become a star. He's become a friggin' star in goal, this guy.
Yeah, he has.
I mean, you're saying then you throw in a JT Miller, you throw in some of these guys, Besser, you throw in some. Besser hasn't been as good, by the way, the last couple of games. He's got to be a lot better, in my opinion.
I want to.
They're dynamite.
I want to move this along, and you just mentioned it moments ago. No questions in net for Calgary, but a couple of goalie controversies maybe coming up here, and one with the defending Stanley Cup champions here, because Craig Berube made quite the statement. He took Tarasenko out of the lineup, and is he hurt? Is he unfit? Or is he out with a sore coach? Steen was out, Brouwer was out, and now all of a sudden, you go to some names here, Jordan Kyrou, who looked to me like he got shot out of a cannon. Again, buying into your theory of the young legs getting the job done. And he goes to Jake Allen. He gives Binnington a rest. But Jake was lights out as well. And, Mac, 2 years ago, we're wondering what's wrong with this guy. He was supposed to be the #1 goalie. He was supposed to be the one that put St. Louis in a championship environment, and he didn't. And he worked his ass off. He worked on his craft. He was a good, great teammate. They love him. You could tell watching the game. They love him, and they believe in him. And he's really put himself in a position to be maybe the best backup goalie in the league right now. But
it's all over the league. All over the league.
What do you do now if you're Berube? And I do buy into the theory that you don't change a winning lineup here. And I don't expect Tarasenko to come back and play. And I don't expect Binnington in that next game. But
I don't know how you do it.
You talk about the pressure here for Craig Berube now. So, I mean, you coached in this league. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because you don't want to lose Binnington. And, Binnington did you a huge favor last year. So you don't want to necessarily have him say, hey, sit on the sidelines because Jake's going really well. We're just going to ride Jake as long as we can. I don't know how that will sit.
I'll tell you what you do. You come back with Allen, and if there's slippage, you go to Binnington. But Nick, you just said it. Hudobin wins for Dallas, not Bishop. Hudobin wins. Leonard and Fleury, controversy there. Talbot plays back-to-back, which we've never heard of. I mean, it's all over the league.
Mac, listen.
Goaltending decisions.
Robin Leonard's been really good, but that game-winning goal off his head by Highmore behind the goal line It can never happen, ever.
And he hit the puck. He went to hit it with his damn head. Jeez, what's he thinking about?
The only one that didn't mind it was Fleury on the bench.
Yeah. Well, now we've got some great goalie controversies around the league. You talked about it. We've got St. Louis. We've got Dallas. We've got Boston. We've got Vegas. We got a bunch of them. I'm kind of, these are tough calls for coaches right now. Very tough calls. So it's fun to see. And guess what? They can actually play back-to-back games. I can't believe that.
Okay. Speaking of goaltending, you can't necessarily blame Holtby for being down now 3-0 based on their 2-1 loss. Wash can't score. Ovi didn't have a shot on goal until overtime. Out of what, 17 career playoff losses that Holtby's had, he's given up 2 goals or less in the hockey game. Like, this guy can sue for lack of support here.
They've not been very good. And you know what? I called the Islanders to win this series, and I said it was going to be an upset.
Do we have the tape of that? I don't.
We better damn well find it, Joe. Joe, you find that tape and get it on the damn air. But listen to this. Washington have not been really good. And Carlson is banged up. Orlov's okay. And I'm thinking, ooh, but they've been no-shows. So, but listen, I talked to a hockey guy this morning. He said, Doug, I'm telling you this. Mark my words. The Islanders could win the Stanley Cup with the way they're playing. The way they have shut down the neutral zone against Florida. When they do it against Florida, it's another thing to do it against this team. Varlamov has been terrific. Their blue line, Pelech, Pulak, these guys have been really, really good on the back end. And Anders Lee, I love the way this guy plays. I love the way he and Eberle and Barzell, that is an unbelievable line right now. So but this was a hockey guy said to me this morning. He said, Doug, they could win the Stanley Cup. They're playing that well right now. Now, I'm not going to go that far, but who's going to win? It's so weird. It's such a weird year.
Mac, I had
the greatest thing, Gary will not be booed this year unless they got to put it on tape. I wonder if that guy's got the balls. I wonder if that Mayer guy, is it Mayer they're bragging up that did all the game ops? Does he have the balls to put booze on when Gary presents the cup? That's what I want to see.
Okay, we're not even out of the first round. Can you take it easy on that conversation, please? Save that for about a month and a half.
Get it on tape.
Okay. Now, I want to have this conversation with you because I can't ever recall a scenario where you're watching a coach 2 years ago win the Stanley Cup and not get a contract he felt he deserved. And then to be in a scenario here with predominantly the same makeup of your core guys that won the Stanley Cup. You're coaching against them now, and you're about to sweep them. And I had a hockey guy, Mac, that told me that Ted Leonsis is crazy enough to fire Todd Reirden if this ends really ugly for Washington. And the optics on that, I got to admit, will look really bad for the Washington Capitals here, having your Stanley Cup coach sweep you in this series.
This is your worst nightmare as an owner and a general manager. Brian McClellan and Trotz, whatever happened there happened. And I don't know.
Can I tell you what happened?
The inside story, but something
I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you what happened. They didn't want to pay him.
Well,
didn't want to pay him. Didn't want to give him the money that goes for frontline coaching in the ballpark of $4 to $6 million. Didn't want to pay him. So they found somebody who was a lot more.
Well,
What's the
now
word?
it comes back.
Cheaper?
We know that Ted was forced to make Barry an offer after they won the cup, and it was a embarrassing offer, apparently, according to people that I've talked to, and I'm sure you have. And now they're in a situation. I happen to like Todd. I knew him when he was assistant coach at Bowling Green. I knew him at Pittsburgh. I like the guy, but this isn't about Todd Reardon. This isn't about Todd Reardon not doing a good job.
But it is about
coach.
It is about it's about the circumstances he's in.
Exactly.
Yes.
If Todd Reardon gets fired, in my opinion, this is wrong. This is wrong because I think he's done a reasonably good job and doesn't deserve to be fired. This is on Leonce and Brian. That's who it's on for me. And it's probably more Leonce than it is Brian, in my opinion.
Well, we're gonna have to watch that because the Islanders and Barry Trotz they've kept them completely on the outside. Like
Nick,
think about this. Think about this. In a must-win game against one of the greatest modern-day goal scorers, if not the greatest goal scorer in our history, in still what we think is the prime of his career. He doesn't get a shot on goal in 60 minutes, Mac.
Not a sniff.
Not a sniff.
But look, we have to tell our viewers as they hit the button.
The like button.
Two buttons, like and subscribe. But anyway, we have to tell the fans that if they were watching this show prior to the playoffs, you said that this could happen, that Todd Reardon's job could be in jeopardy. Am I not correct that you did say that?
There was a sense. There was a sense that Washington wasn't expecting to win a couple of rounds here. They were expecting to win the Stanley Cup.
Well, it's a pressure-packed situation.
It is.
I'll tell you a similar situation I had. I was coaching the Florida Panthers. Brian Murray was my general manager. His brother, Terry Murray, was coaching Philadelphia. That was a tough series when you have your brother is the coach of the opposition. The other brother is the general manager. And Brian, if you recall, had been fired in Washington and replaced by Terry.
That's right. Yep.
Oh, my God. Was that and I remember after we won the series, Brian and I are out celebrating, just getting baked celebrating. No, I mean, just had a couple of beer. But we felt bad. Brian felt bad for Terry because he lost the series. And I'm thinking, I don't feel one bit bad. But anyway, that's
so when we watch teams now like the Montreal Canadiens, Columbus, the Islanders, and we generally look at our league, Mac, as a bit of a copycat league, especially if one of these teams, and you said it, the Islanders go and win the Stanley Cup. Guess what kind of the model, the blueprint's gonna look like? And we've seen teams try to go with that high skill, water bug kind of hockey, play fast. And at the end of the day, you can play all you want outside, but you still got to come through the house. And those teams I just mentioned have done a better job of protecting the house than anyone we've seen so far in these playoffs.
And taking away the rush. But I love this. I remember reading an article this past year about everything is about possession, right? Puck possession. Since Chaika and Dubas came along, everything's been about possession. So, and that's fine. I like to see the possession numbers. I like to know about the possession numbers. So then I read this article that the Islanders were in first place at this time, and they said, you shouldn't dump the puck in anymore. It's all about possession. Well, the Islanders dumped the puck more than anybody maybe in the history of hockey. So now what they've had to change around and say, well, it's okay if you dump the puck as long as you retrieve it.
As long as you get it back.
So now the new thing is if you dump, and I'm thinking, didn't we talk about that when I was coaching you in Baltimore 25 years ago? If you dump it, it's not to give the other team the puck. It's to dump it so that you're really hoping to get it back placing it in the right places. Now I'm getting so damn excited. I'm spitting on my computer.
No, you're getting me now. Ugh. But that's why we have analytic guys, because 25 years ago, we didn't know about getting the puck back. We needed them around to tell us how it was going to affect their paperwork.
Yeah, our team is dumping the puck so they will get it and go down and score. That's why we're dumping it. And Don Cherry used to talk about this all the time. Place the puck in the right spot when you dump it, like soft corner, cross corner. Anyway, okay,
Soft
a little coaching,
dumps.
some coaching tips there to end the show.
Yeah, leave me with a visual of soft dumps. Thank you very much. Columbus and Tampa Bay, 3 p.m. Is Columbus going to get some mojo back, or are we seeing just a team that's too tired?
You know, they've had a tough go. The number of games they've had to play, the overtimes. Korpisalo looked tired. Now, does the day's rest, does that give Korpisalo a break? I'm hoping if Korpisalo can be as good, they have a chance to still win. But I hope he's got enough in the tank to extend this series. I know they're concerned about that. I know that.
Give me a score here for blitzbet.eu.
Geez, I've been
Canadian deposits only right now, folks.
You know what? I have been better this series, though, haven't I?
Yes.
I've come back.
So 2-2, 3-1. Give me a number here.
Geez, I'm saying 3-2 win. 3-2 win.
3-2 win. Give me a team. I don't want to score. I want to score and a team. The score doesn't matter if you don't give me a team.
I'm cheering for Columbus, but I hope I think Tampa may win 3-2.
Okay, 3-1 Tampa Bay. Got to give Coyotes some credit here.
Oh,
wow. Kemper. Wow.
Seriously, he's been good.
That goes at 5:30.
I'm a Tocchet fan. I'm a Tocchet fan. Like I know you're a big Tocchet fan. I'm a Tocchet fan. Since Rick Tocchet has become part of the Coyotes, they play. Since he's become the head coach, they play. They play the way the game should be played. I like the job Tocchet's done there. I'd like to see them extend this.
Michael Bannock Jr. goes 4-1 Tampa today. He thinks it's going to be rather easy. Bruins.
Who does? Who?
My assistant here. I've got an Ed McMahon here.
You have an assistant?
I do have an assistant. Yes.
Why the hell am I paying for sponsorships at the Summerside Boys and Girls Club if you have an assistant?
But he's not getting paid, Mac.
Oh, okay. He's an intern.
He's an intern. He's an intern.
Interns.
Thanks, MJ. Michael Jr. Thank you, pal. Okay, Bruins, Carolina, 8 p.m. Boston keep riding the wave?
Yeah, I think Svechnikov's such a big loss in his mix-up with Chara, and it looks like he's going to be out for a few weeks. That's a big, big loss to that big line. If Pasternak comes back, yeah, I got Boston winning, but this is tough. This is a tough series.
Before we let you go, we got to talk about your weekend and this picture that you posted. Apparently, you weren't doing much research on the weekend for the Real Kyper at Noon show. Who's in the picture? I see Bubbles. I see Trailer Park Boys.
That's
enough. You're hanging out with the stars.
It was a Summerside Boys Club golf tournament. Just having a marvelous golf outing. Bobby Orr was supposed to be there this year, but because of the virus, couldn't come. Pete Mahovich. They had a lot of big names, so it ended up being just a maritime group. The Trailer Park Boys were there, and I didn't realize that they were big stars, but son Clark told me, no, Dad, they're big stars now.
Wow.
And I mean, Bubbles was there, and Bubbles has to go to his golf cart and get his thick glasses and put them on. And I said, why don't you wear them all the time? He said, because they give me a headache. but Randy Bo Bandy there, he's a cheeseburger man.
Get him to the pro shop and get him a golf shirt.
And the other guy, by the way, Dion Phaneuf was in the picture. We spent a lot of time.
I always told you.
Dion educated me on hockey on the weekend. And Jim Clark is in the picture, who is the director of pro scouting for the Ottawa Senators. So it was a great picture.
You think Jim will take Randy with his third or fifth pick overall?
And you know what the worst thing about the picture was? I put it on Twitter. I compared it to something, and then this guy sends, "Hey Mac, put your shirt on."
And I thought all those years that Phaneuf was a captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, you were too critical on him. I said, back off. Good guy.
Yeah, poor Dion. We did have Dion and I spent 4 or 5 hours chatting, and
So has he got any sniffs?
His mother used to be a friend of mine. She doesn't like me, but Dion and I have we bonded over the weekend. It was very interesting.
There might be some.
Dion was very good. He's been very good to the Boys and Girls Club, so I was proud of him.
There could be a few teams that could use.
So I show up and I see the sponsor sheet there, and it's all the companies that sponsor. And I thought, wow. And then I see Real Kyper at Noon's picture on this is part of the sponsor sheet.
Wow.
And
we're really getting out there.
And I thought, where the hell did this come from? And I said to the boss of the did Real Kyper at Noon donate? And they said, no, Mac, that was your donation. We put Real Kyper at Noon show. I said, what? Why the hell am I paying for Real Kyper at Noon show?
Did you get them to hit the smash the like button for us and subscribe and
did you say
listen to
I'll tell you
our
what,
podcast
guys.
now on Spotify? Did you tell them that we're available on Spotify as well as Apple?
I could tell when the 2 days I was at the golf tournament that we're mentioning the like and smash button a lot because I had it mentioned to me.
I'm gonna get you. We're gonna make you up a T-shirt with the thumb
Smash
up
me.
and just say "Smash Doug Maclean."
Exactly.
Okay.
Anyway, fun.
You exhausted. You've exhausted me.
Exactly.
James Douglas Maclean, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, congratulations on a great weekend. Still doing it for the Boys and Girls Club in PEI. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, they're a great group.
Okay, what's on tap for tomorrow? What are you doing tomorrow? Golfing, RV?
I don't know tomorrow. I've got a lot of running around to do, and we've got some. I'm busy. I don't know why, but I seem to be busy. But anyway, I'm going to follow the hockey, and I'm anxious to see who you'll have as a guest because obviously I always
guess.
I always compare.
The
product when I'm not there.
I tell people, I be good, but don't try not to look better than Doug Maclean because he does not like that at all. And they're pretty good about that.
You're a team guy.
Doug Maclean, everybody from Summerside, PEI. Thank you very much, Doug. And to all of you, I hope we got you a little bit more prepared for your upcoming games. One as early as 3 p.m. Eastern. That's Columbus and Tampa Bay. Avs and Coyotes, Bruins in Carolina, and the Bruins in Carolina, and the Blues against the Canucks for a back-to-back. I hope you enjoyed the show. Like I said, thank you so much for coming on board. To our loyal followers, thanks for always supporting the Real Kyper at Noon show. For those of you who are just starting out, please subscribe, hit the like button,